Hello everybody, this is Glenda with Shaking Hands Art and with Fralins and Friends. Tonight, I'm going to try tonight to discuss several events that are leading up, and I will use some of these other prints, not the originals, the prints that will help me to tell the stories. Now, when Jesus feeds the 5,000, he's been going from place to place. And the people are following him. And they get to this one place, and the people, like, there were 5,000 just men. And then there were also women and children. And a young boy comes up to him because the disciples, they say to him, what are we going to do? We need to send these people somewhere so that they can eat. And Jesus says, you have little faith. They have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. I don't know, they didn't mention the 2 fish in this one, but he's got these 5 loaves of bread. And that's it for over 5,000 people. So he starts breaking the bread and handing it out for the disciples to pass around in baskets to the people. And the bread just keeps coming and coming. Well, after everybody is fed and is full, he sends the disciples out to gather up what's left. And they filled 12 baskets. So that's 12 disciples, 12 baskets. There's another instance where he feeds 4,000. But the thing of it is, okay, for those of you who were with us when we were in the wilderness after the Israelites came out of Egypt, when they started complaining about being hungry, what did God provide? He provided manna, which is bread. So that's just one thing that he does. He's healing people. He's making the blind see, the lame to walk. He's healing anybody who comes to him wanting healing. And they just keep following him. And so this is what happened. He needed to feed them. Now, there is another instance. In this one, this is also a print. Okay, let's make that lake come down about here. I need a blue something. That's not blue, that's green. Yeah. This is all water. This, call it, it looks like a bowl, but we'll call it water. Just like what we have here. And in this instance, Jesus is in a boat out here. Or no, not Jesus. The disciples are in a boat out here. And they're all sitting there. Some of them are sleeping. It's kind of hard to see very far, or at least as far as where Jesus is. And Jesus starts to walk on the water. This is why I'm not drawing water over it, because he's walking on the water. But they don't know who he is yet. I hope you're able to see what I'm actually doing here. It's hard for me to tell. Zoom in there. So Jesus is walking toward the disciples on water. And Peter's there looking. Who is this? And when Peter recognizes Jesus, he gets out of the boat, and as long as he's walking on Jesus, watching Jesus, he's walking on water too. And then he gets scared. Suddenly he just gets afraid. We all do this. We start something, not walking on water, but we'll start something and then get afraid, and we'll pretty much just start to go down. And that's what happens. Peter, he's walking on water just like Jesus, only because he's got his eyes on Jesus and by the power of Jesus. But as soon as he quits looking at Jesus, he starts to sink. And Jesus grabs him and helps him, brings him back up. And he says, why did you take your eyes off of me? Peter admits that he got scared. So this was a lesson, not just to Peter, but to all of them. And so those are some of the real events that happened. Pardon me. These are not parables. There are a lot of parables, and there are a lot of parables that teach really good stuff. But those aren't parables. And those actually happened. And there's a case, and this is when Jesus is finally taking some dangerous steps toward proving who he is. And, well, okay, John the Baptist has been beheaded. And John is in prison. And he had heard, there was an instance where Jesus was commanding his disciples to go and teach in other cities. And John heard about this. And John said to his disciples, now he's in prison. John's in prison. I'm talking about John the Baptist. And remember, he's only a few months older than Jesus. But he is in prison, and his disciples ask him who they should follow. And he says, well, you go follow him. I mean, he's saying, go ask him who he is. And so then Jesus tells them. And he says, go and show John again those things which ye do hear and see. The blind receive sight, and the lame walk. The lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. That's just a little bit of what Jesus sends us. See, John knew, but he wants his disciples to know. Because I think John knew what was coming. It doesn't say, but I think he knew what was coming. He was in prison because he had told Herod that he should not be sleeping with his brother's wife, Herod's brother's wife. And so then one night, the daughter, Herod's brother's wife's daughter, Herod's niece, she is dancing so beautifully that Herod promises her whatever she wants. Whatever she asks for, he will give. And this is like a big party. And she's entertained everybody so well. So she goes and talks to her mother. Now, King Herod was afraid to kill John. He was just going to keep him in prison. But he knew there was a significance, and he did not want to kill him. But he had promised this niece, or this girl, whatever she asked for. But she goes and talks to her mother. And her mother says, ask for John the Baptist's head on a platter. And that's what she asked for. Herod couldn't deny it now. Or at least he didn't, in order to please everybody. I mean, there are people doing that. Instead of saying, no, this is wrong, he gives in. And because he wants to look good in front of everybody. So he has them behead John in the prison, bring his head on a platter up to the place where they were. And so then Jesus hears about this. And he explains to his disciples what's happened. It says here, for Herod had laid hold of John and bound him and put him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife. And then this other happened. But there's a lot of hypocrisy going on. And Jesus, he sees all of it, or he knows about all of it. I'm reading in the King James because that's how I can legally read from that. There's, if you don't understand it very well, you can look up in the New International. There's a lot of, but just be careful of some of the that are not really translated from the originals. From the original, anyway, that's not that they're bad, it's just that they're one person's interpretation. Jesus has been healing people. And they've become, some of them just touch the back, just touch his robe, and they're healed. Because he has this power. And it's godly power. He is God become flesh, because the Holy Spirit was the one who placed the seed in Mary. So they're all in the same, but yet he shows tremendous respect for God the Father. He is always saying that they must, because later he will admit that that they are one, that there is no separation really between them, but yet he honors that personality of God, the fatherly personality, and we know that God can be many places at once. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow. God bless. Good night.